stripes from where his trunk is dragged, and you can actually see the trunk itself in those sort of big stripes. So it's difficult to see this one right next to me. Sorry, Craig, I've parked very badly, but that one in front is a little bit better. But there's the footprint, and you can see this sort of smooth half moon shape, and there's the trunk drag going forward there, and you can actually see the little fine lines that are there are all from the hairs on the trunk. And if you've seen an elephant's trunk, it's lots of bristly hairs, and that causes this drag mark to form. But these tracks are fairly fresh. I was just looking now, they're on top of most things, and so I'm pretty sure that this elephant must be somewhere close by. We're going to try and see if we can't find him, because he's moving straight down towards Chitwa Dam side, and so I'm hoping that that's where he's going to be. Like I was saying earlier, is maybe he's going down for a mid-morning sort of drink, much like we would have our tea or coffee. And I wonder if Byron has whipped out his coffee yet. I would have thought the lion sighting would have been a prime place to enjoy a cup of Java, so it would be interesting to know if he's had his coffee yet. Byron has his coffee every morning, and he takes his flask with him, and it's all a big process in the morning as he preps his flask, and then he mixes the coffee, and he has to get it all very sort of scientific, and it's quite entertaining to watch that sort of early hours of the morning, particularly when we do the early sunrise safaris in the summer months. Then you find that he's up quite early he's being a mad scientist and mixing his marvelous coffee that he makes. Now this vehicle that we're on is a tea vehicle, because Craig behind me doesn't drink coffee, and neither do I, so the two of us are tea people, and Craig has got his cup of tea. How's your cup of tea, Craig? Is it finished now? Long ago. I'm sorry, Craig. And Craig had the unfortunate incident this morning where he burnt his mouth, and we all know how that is, or anybody that's had a hot drink, when it's too hot and you take a big sip and it burns your tongue and your mouth. It's a horrible experience, and so poor Craig has had to deal with that this morning, but luckily his tea cooled down and he's now feeling just fine. Now we've got somebody perched on top of a termite mound, which is quite cool. And oh no, man, don't go behind there. Let's see if it will come back. I'm just going to stop for a second. But on top of that termite mound was a little squirrel that was busy sort of sunning itself, and it ran down the back of the mound and probably disappeared. It's not as brave as Taylor's squirrel yesterday, and for those that missed it, Taylor had this little squirrel that came bounding up towards the car and was playing around near the car and seemed to have absolutely no fear like the rest of the squirrel population in this area. And so that was the movie star squirrel. This one, unfortunately, not so much. Right, I don't think it's going to come back, Craig. Maybe it's a coffee squirrel and it didn't like the fact that this is a tea vehicle. Who knows? I reckon squirrels must be coffee drinkers. They seem to be so active and fidgety that maybe they drink too much caffeine in the morning, and that's why they bounce around all over the place. Them and the dwarf mongoose, I think those are the two big coffee drinkers out here. What would you guys think? What animal would be a coffee drinker, and what animal would be a tea drinker, if they did indeed drink either one of those? I feel like elephants could be tea drinkers. With their little one tip of their trunk, their tips would hold the cup, and they could sit and drink from that. But let's see. I'm not sure. Let's see what your thoughts are on all of this. And well, let's go and actually see what Byron's thoughts are, since that's the coffee vehicle, and there will be a heavy coffee bias on that side.
Tristan, I haven't had my coffee just yet. Fergus has been sipping on his slowly behind me, but yes, we are a coffee vehicle. I'll have my coffee soon, don't worry. I have got something interesting I'd like to show you though. Have a look at this, and I say it's interesting because of the time of year. Now we're in winter and snakes aren't very active, but look at what I've just found here now. There's a beautiful snake track, very clear snake track crossing the road. It looks like the snake has headed in that direction. I always think it's tricky to tell with snake tracks, but the way they've curved and pushed the sand with their body, it looks like the snake has moved in that direction. Now this is quite a thick snake track. Trying to work out what it is, but I think it might be a python, maybe a young python that's moved along the road or across the road. And I was just saying to Fergus that This time of year, it's unusual because it's winter and cold. A lot of snakes hibernate, and it's unusual to see snake activity. However, pythons do often get active in winter. Certain days, if there's a warm day, they'll come and bask in the sun on maybe outside a termite mound or on top of a termite mound, warm up, and then return back into a hole, into a burrow, and continue their hibernation. But I'm not exactly sure, but I think this might be a python track that's crossed the road. But very, very clear. Wonderful light on it from this side now. So you can see this clear snake track of how it's been, the sand has been flattened with the snake moving across the road. That's very nice. Something different. So we'll see what else we can find now. You can send through some of your requests of what we should try and find. I think I might just stick to this idea of allowing the bush to decide for us, and we'll see what we can find or what the bush provides for us, as opposed to searching for something specific. Now let's head back to Tristan. Now I'm sorry, Chantal, I didn't hear what Tristan has got or what he's looking for or what answers he's got, but let's go find out.
Well, I'm not quite sure what we're trying to find out about, because unfortunately Chantal broke up and I didn't hear what she said or what Byron said. Oh, what I have. Oh, I've got a Burchell starling, Byron. It's a very pretty bird. It has an iridescent blue-purple coloration and a dark eye and long tail. So there we go, Byron. That's exactly what I have, is the best description I can give. And our Burchell starling is on a hunting mission of note. So it's busy trying to find all kinds of things in the grass, particularly insects. You'll often find these Burchell starlings being closely associated with larger mammals. You'll find them often following buffalo and rhinos and elephants, and they'll hawk the insects that those bigger animals disturb. We've now got a dove getting in on the action. Now the dove, of course, is not eating the insects, but there it comes, the Cape turtle dove. It's a showdown between turtle dove and Burchell starling, and, well, no one really seems to care, and bypassing traffic, and off we go. There's lots of traffic actually on this open area. We've also got some Senegal lapwings that I've just noticed in the background. So it seems to be where everybody's congregated this morning. There's our Senegal lapwing. Where are you running off to? It would be quite difficult normally to identify them from just that behind, but we saw them sort of side on, and they've got that grey chest, which none of the other lapwings have. So that's how we know. It's also seems to be a little bit on the smaller side compared to the crowned lapwings. The crowned lapwings tend to be, for me, always seem to appear a lot bigger. I've actually never seen the two of them standing right next to each other, because it could be completely false, but I always think the crowned lapwing looks slightly bigger than the Senegal lapwing. But there we go. It's a nice little bird party that is out here and having a good time together. Now we're on our way down towards Chitra Dam. I unfortunately lost our elephant tracks. They seem to be kind of weaving in and out of Torchwood, but generally going southwards. Then bumped into a whole bunch of elephant tracks from last night, which looked like a herd, and that was kind of going northwards. So I wonder if our bull didn't just kind of pick up that track scent and then cut off and start following those tracks itself. And I would imagine with this cold wind that we've got now, that most of our elephants will be heading towards sort of some more thicker areas or down into the dips, so into the places like the Mulawati or Mulawanini. Those would be areas that they would love to spend time. Now we've got a little squirrel that's here, and I wonder if this one's going to be far more obedient and far more sort of playful than what we saw just now. Just on this dead stump here, Craig, you'll see that there's a little fluffy tail just sticking out. There it is, straight in the middle. There's its tail. So you can see it just hovering in the breeze. Now I wonder if he's going to move from there. I don't want to move the car, because if we move the car, our squirrel will most definitely run, and I'm hoping that it's going to get relaxed with our presence and actually come out. And there we go. Good morning to you too. That behavior that Taylor had yesterday was very interesting. Not only was that squirrel very relaxed, but it was eating an insect, and now that's the first that I've ever seen a squirrel eating an insect the way that that one did. And so I was quite surprised and quite interested to watch that whole process. We obviously do it a lot more than we know, and the fact that that one was doing it with such sort of ease and kind of knew what was going on means that that's not the first time it's fed off something like that. So interesting to see that they do sometimes go after insects, and it's probably because there's a nutrient factor in that they can't get out of various other sort of food sources like nuts and fruits that they do go after at other times of the year. It's amazing how this wind is all of a sudden kicked up again. So we have answers about our animals and whether they are tea or coffee drinkers. So what have we got, Chantal? Let's see. So Miss Sky, you say baboons are coffee drinkers. Well, yes, I think that's probably a fair call. They tend to act a bit like hooligans and jump around all over the place. So that's fair. So dear watcher, you say that hyenas will definitely be coffee and probably double espresso. Well, I would imagine that would be the case. I would think that they would love their coffee almost like Turkish coffee, and dark and strong and like tar. That's what I would imagine that they have, for sure. I always just think about this, and what always kind of makes me laugh, because wouldn't it be quite entertaining if you came around the corner and you'd find a whole bunch of elephants all sitting together, all very sort of relaxed on their behinds, with their trunk holding their cup of tea and one sort of hand on their saucer, and they were busy having a sort of chin wag as to what was going on. Sometimes that comes into my mind. I don't know why, but it does. I'd also imagine that the lions do it sometimes. They also maybe tea as well as coffee. I think it depends on the lion, much like us as humans. So I think it was Jeff. You can just repeat that for me, Chantal. Sorry, I didn't get the name. Tess. Sorry, Tess. My apologies. You say giraffe are chai latte drinkers. Well, that sounds like a good idea. I think I quite like that one, actually. Sounds appropriate for sure. What do we think the hippos are? Hippos are an interesting one. That's a nice surprise. So we've come towards Chitra Dam, and I'll show you now what is a nice surprise, because we haven't seen too many of them recently. So I'm going to just stop somewhere here before the gremlins get us in this little hollow, and hopefully we'll have a good sort of visual of them. And there we go. Hippos are cocoa drinkers. Can you imagine in winter? I would imagine if I was a hippo or a crocodile, a good cup of cocoa or hot chocolate here in South Africa is what we call it. That would be a good bet. I think that's a wonderful idea. Now, that's what we were saying was a nice surprise, is the zebras, because zebras have been a little bit sort of scarce. But there's one impala that's going crazy. He's snorting and he looks very distressed at the moment. I don't know if it's because maybe, just maybe, there's males, but it is alarm calling. So I'm just going to quickly just try and sneak to where that impala is alarm calling. It doesn't sound like rutting at all. It looks like it's looking down towards the water and is alarm calling quite heavily. Look, you can see here they are here, and their stance and their posture is one of sort of very alertness. There it is. That one on the right hand side is the one that's making most of the noise, but it might be to do with rutting, because here comes another male in from the side. Let's have a look quickly. No, I think it's more rutting than anything else. It sounded like alarm calls for a second there. And just the way that that male was upright and sort of watching, I thought for a second it might have seen another a predator somewhere down near the water. But alas, it looks like more just the rutting story. Right, let me reposition ourselves back for our zebras again. But I was saying that the zebras have been few and far between, and it's probably due to the fact that we've just had sort of increased lion activity on Djuma itself. We know the McCurdy herd, he suffered that sort of lion attack, and one of the members got unfortunately maimed in that attack, and they got hurt very, very badly, and subsequently then died from it. And so that's probably why we haven't seen too much of them. But it's really nice to see these sort of striped animals again. They're one of my sort of favorite animals, and they are very, very pretty. I like the way that they have this sort of black and white striping, and especially in the mornings, in the afternoon, late afternoon and early mornings, that when the light is good, they are very pretty animals indeed. And it looks like a warthog on the right there. Is that a warthog, Craig? Yes, there's a warthog with its bum in the air, having a good graze. So it seems Chitwa Dam is very busy this morning. There's lots of impalas. You can actually see a wildebeest now coming out in front of me. There's zebras, there's warthogs. So there is our wildebeest that should come out shortly. Where are you, wildebeest? Oh no, stop behind the branch at this stage, but it will come out. There it comes. So you can see him sticking out, and he's decided he's going to stick with the impalas this morning. And probably a wise idea when it's windy like this and really gusting. It's difficult conditions for prey animals to survive in. You'll find that the predators will thrive in this, and the reason why is that there's a lot of noise that is caused by the wind. Also, the wind swirling means that the sort of scent of that predator gets swirled around, and they actually don't know which way the predator is coming from. And so this is probably why we're seeing most of these animals moving into these open clearings to try and avoid being preyed upon by predators in the thickets during the day today. This wind is going to make everyone a little bit more disconcerted and a little bit more on edge, and you'll find they'll be a bit jumpy during the day today. And so rather seek out a nice open section, and if you're a wildebeest, seek out a big impala herd that can be your alarm system for you. So they'll just kind of protect what's going on and make sure that they are vigilant for the wildebeest, and he can spend his day feeding and not have to worry nearly as much. Let's see how zebras are slowly also on their way towards us. Hopefully they're going to come down towards the edge of the water here and maybe have a drink. It's quite nice down at the bottom at Chitwa Dam. There's a little cove that the zebras can come sleep in. Vegas Beauty Snob, you want to know if it's the season for zebras to be pregnant. Well, yes, some of the zebras will be starting to show signs of pregnancy. Zebras are unlike a lot of the other animals in that they do actually give birth throughout the year. Most of the sort of heightened period of calving or foaling, should we say, is in the summer months, but they can sometimes have young through winter, and so you will sometimes see pregnant zebra. Now, I'm pretty sure you're referring to the zebra that is second from the left, will now be the one on the far left there, because you can see that it's got a massively swollen stomach. So that zebra is indeed pregnant and probably will give birth. I would say it's maybe a month away from giving birth. When they really are heavily pregnant, they become wide and their stomach hangs very, very low, and it becomes an animal that almost looks as round as it is tall. So she's not quite at that stage just yet, but she does look as though she is a little bit pregnant. Now, you must also remember with zebras is that they do have rounder stomachs than what you see on some of the other antelopes. So things like impalas, waterbuck, kudu, those antelope are all ruminating animals, which means that they've got the four-chambered stomach, and they then regurgitate and rechew, and so they don't eat nearly as much as what a zebra would eat. A zebra doesn't have the same system. It's a hindgut fermenter, so it's much like the hippos and the elephants, and it's therefore got to have a massive stomach to store, one, the amount of food it eats, and two, to be able to digest. It has a lot of bacteria that produces massive amounts of gas, which also bloats them, and so zebras generally do have fatter, rounder appearances than many of the other animals themselves. The animals all seem to be very edgy. There's a few alarm calls here and there, and I'm sure it's this wind. I wonder if maybe a predator didn't walk past here at some point today, and the wind is kind of gusting, and they can still pick up their scent every now and then, because there's the odd snort from an impala. There's sort of running every now and then. I just saw a waterbuck come running past as well. So I don't know if maybe, just maybe, there's been some sort of sign of predator, and we'll definitely have a look very carefully. I'm going to try and head down to the water and see if Boris or Vlad are out in this cold wind. I would imagine maybe they'll be still in the water, but we're going to try our best. I'm just a little bit concerned if I roll forward here that we're going to be attacked by gremlins, because we're right on the edge of that sort of area, just in this little front section, is where gremlins live. This is where you need to be very careful. They like to hide in these trees here, and they sometimes jump out onto the vehicle and cause havoc. So before they do that, and I'm going to try and bypass him, let's go across to Byron and see if he's found a good spot to have his coffee.
Not yet, Tristan, but haven't had our coffee yet, so maybe that's why. We'll stop at some point. It's too soon to panic. Tristan sounds like he's been enjoying his tea this morning, at least. We're just having a nice little drive around, trying to see what else we can find, or what else pops out for us. Any more interesting tracks? I did see some hyena tracks, some fresh hyena tracks. Well, looks like from early this morning sometime. Walking in the opposite direction though. Don't know why that hyena den hasn't been active for a while, if they've moved off or where they've gone. There's some nice elephant tracks here. You can actually see, look at this, another interesting track, and let me just show you. Let me jump off quickly. I like jumping off because I get to stretch my legs a bit. Now, these are lovely big elephant tracks, a big male, I would assume, because I only see tracks of one, so I do think it's a male that's walked by himself. And there's a big track, but have a look at this scrape in the sand. Now, what this elephant has done is, as he's moving along, he's probably taken his trunk and either dragged it along the ground or used it to scoop up some sand and dust bathe, as we've seen them do many times. This track, however, is probably from early last night that he walked along the road, and I say that because I can see two tiny little tracks on top of this elephant track, and these little tracks are of a genet that has walked along here. Now, we know genets are predominantly nocturnal, so that will help us age the tracks of this elephant. So because the genet tracks are on top of these elephant tracks, I would guess that this that's why I say I guess this elephant moved here late afternoon, early evening yesterday, and during the course of the night this genet has walked along the road and walked on top of these elephant tracks. And again, it's because a genet is nocturnal that I would guess that that's what happened here. And these elephant tracks are not fresh. Chances of us finding this elephant now probably slim to none. But it's interesting to see and gauge how fresh tracks are. And a lot of you always ask us, how do we see if the tracks are fresh or not? But that is one of the ways, is to see if anything else has walked on top of the tracks. What has walked over the tracks? Are they bird tracks? If it was little Franklin or little dove tracks, those would have been from early, probably this morning sometime, so then it would probably still be worthwhile trying to follow these elephant tracks. But this, I don't think was from this morning or even today. I think probably early evening yesterday. Now, if we do find an elephant, of course, we're not going to show you, because then that will mean I was wrong. Chris David, you asked why we don't ever see the river down at Sabi, or the Sabi River. So, Chris David, let me just try to explain this quickly to you. Now, we've got the Sabi Sands in general is quite a large area. It's about 60,000 hectares, so that's about 120,000 acres of land. Now, that section is adjacent, or basically adds on to the Kruger National Park. So we just basically down the southwestern side of Kruger, but obviously linked to the Kruger National Park. The Sabi Sands got its name because it was linked or basically situated between two main rivers. The Sand River, which runs kind of through the northern and middle part of the Sabi Sands, and then the Sabi River, which runs along the southern boundary, the southern part of the Sabi Sands. We are situated, Djuma is situated right up in the north, so we don't get down to that Sabi River down in the south. Our traversing doesn't go all the way down there. There's some of the lodges down in that area, Lion Sands and Sabi that are close to the Sabi River. Those are down on the southern boundary of the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. So we don't get down there, that's why we don't see it. We don't even get to the Sand River, which runs through the central part of the Sabi Sands. That river runs through Singita, Londolozi, Mala, and eventually it goes and joins up to the Sabi River, which then runs into the Kruger National Park. So where we are, we don't have any prominent rivers running through Djuma, but just south of us, not too far, is where the Sand River is. But that's why we don't get to see the Sabi River. It's still quite windy. I can see the trees are blowing in the wind. You can probably hear the wind through my microphone. What's the time, Fergus? I think it's coffee time actually. I think with this cold wind too that we've got, maybe we should have a quick little cup of coffee. And so again, I do this because I just want all of you to kind of know what we do with guests on safari. So it's always nice just to stretch the legs a little bit after sitting on a vehicle for 2 or 3 hours or 2.5 hours. Nice to stretch the legs. So we'll stop, and some of the game drive vehicles have got these great nifty little tables that fold out. So we've called that a bull bar, that front section of the vehicle. And most game drive vehicles have got these little tables that... No, I don't. Are they talking to me? Sorry, I can't hear. Let's quickly link to Tristan then.
So I think Byron was struggling a little bit with his comms there, but this is such a magical scene, and this is why coming down to Chitra Dam is always so not pleasant in the mornings. There's just a whole magnitude of animals here and different species. It's almost something similar to what we've been seeing from Brenton, Jamie and the Mara, of multiple animal species together. So there's lots of impalas, as you can see. There's some wildebeest there, there's a waterbuck, there's the warthogs, there's the zebras. So all of them are all together and taking it very easy, and I think enjoying a bit of sunshine. The wind is howling now from the southwest, and it is icy cold, the wind. It's got this sort of icy sort of feel to it, and it really is not that pleasant, and it's putting all these animals on serious alert. Every now and then the wind gusts, and these guys get very sort of stressed. They all bolt upright and they stare into the wind and they smell, and it becomes a little bit sort of hesitant as to what they're doing. So it's interesting just to watch them in conditions like this. Of course, there will be some bachelor boys which will just mess around, which is like these two in front. They just having a little game, and that's all to try and basically establish dominance and to learn the skills of fighting. They're going to compete in the rut in 2 years' time, and so this is just going to hone their skills, get their necks nice and strong, and it's almost like going to the gym for them. They're sort of getting their necks built up and getting some power there, and also the technique of being able to fight. And isn't it beautiful with that sort of backlit dust when they fight like that and the dust gets kicked up? It looks very, very cool with that light behind them. And I always laugh with these young impalas. It starts off so innocent, and there's a little bit of horn touching, and it's never really anything major. And then like with most young adolescent individuals that start play fighting, it quickly descends into chaos, and the fight gets a little bit too hectic, and one gets hurt, and then there's trauma, and they run away. It's always quite funny to watch. So you find that there's often the case with the impalas as well. Now, zebras are fairly relaxed in the background there. The warthog is busy digging away close to its termite mound, and I wonder if that warthog actually does live in the termite mound. It's just to the right there, Craig. There he is, behind the wildebeest. And the wildebeest showed a sort of display of its lack of intelligence, if you would like to call it that, because it sat alarm calling at the warthog for I don't know how long, even though the warthog is absolutely no threat whatsoever. I think it just saw that backlit hare walking through the grass and, well, thought that it might be a predator, and therefore decided it was going to alarm call and cause massive panic amongst the entire grouping of animals that we have here. All the waterbuck had to shoot upright and stare in that direction. All the impalas bolted upright, and the rest of them all realized it was a warthog. It didn't alarm call at all, but, well, the wildebeest, unfortunately, not so intelligent. Now, what's quite nice is there's two male impalas actually busy grooming themselves right on the right of the herd, Craig. I don't know if you can see them there. There we go, those two there. And it's quite nice to watch. So with these impalas, it's one of the few sort of traits that they have that is quite unique to them, is that they allo-groom one another. So you won't find this that commonly in a lot of the other antelope species, where two males will groom each other. You can see they're using those comb-like teeth just to run through the fur and make sure that the coat is in perfect condition, especially in areas that are hard to reach. With impalas, you can't really groom your own jawline, and so this other male, with his sort of teeth that are quite elastic in the gums and those ridges, will be combing through and just getting rid of any loose fur as well as any parasites that could potentially be there. And it's quite a cool little photo, well, screenshots actually, of the two of them together. Now, it's a much older male with a younger male, so you can see the rut is starting to slow down now. So Amanda, you're wondering if they break up into groups or if they stay together throughout their lives. Now, I suppose I hope that you're talking about the impalas. And, well, Amanda, they have quite an interesting sort of social structure. They are a herd animal, and they'll spend most of their time sort of moving around in herds, but the herds will vary quite a lot depending on the time of the year. So now that we've kind of just finished the rut, so we've just finished that period where the males are chasing females around because the females have come into heat, we'll find that the herds become quite mixed, and you'll find males, females, all kind of mixed in together. We'll then start going towards the lambing season, and you'll find that the herds will then break up a little bit as the females have their lambs. They go off, have the lamb, and then they come in, and so the herd changes slightly. And then we go into sort of April, May next year when the rut starts, and then most of these young males that you are seeing in this herd will be pushed out by a big dominant male. He's not going to tolerate the fact that there's younger males here. He's going to push most of them away, and you'll find that there'll be a single male with smaller groups of females that he's able to section off for himself to then mate with. So the herd structure does change, so they definitely don't stay together for their lifetime. It's not like the elephants that form this sort of herd that is very tightly knit and tightly bound together. It's a little bit different to mix and match and break off and form small groupings quite a lot of the time. Isn't it just such a peaceful scene with all these animals just going about their day, and everyone seems very relaxed now? It's almost like now that there's so many different animals out here, everyone's kind of relying on each other to something, and any that would even try to get involved here would have a very tough time. There's so many eyes, ears and noses, it's going to be almost impossible for a predator to sneak up onto any of them. So, Ash, you want to know why some of the horns are more curved than others? Well, that's a sign of age. So there we go. That male there is an adult, big, dominant male, or one of the sort of bigger males. He's probably about 3.5 years old, and so his horns have grown out and they start to curve as they grow. This male in front that's grooming on the left hand side, that's only he must be about 2 years old now. So, well, not just under 2 years, and he will be 2 years in November around that time. So his horns are still developed, still growing. So those are the young adolescent horns, and as they get older, this curve then starts to develop, and so that's why you're seeing different sort of lengths. older they get, the more deep that curve becomes, and the wider the spread is between the actual horn structure. See, our crocodile has actually just come out. So I was busy. It's emerged back to the crocodile. You can see.
Oh dear, sounds like Tristan lost signal there. Sorry, we lost comms with final control there for a second. So I wasn't sure how much of my coffee story you got, but as I was saying, it's just the reason I do it is because on game drives, what we do is we get the guests to get out the vehicle, stretch their legs a little bit, and just have something warm, like a coffee or a tea, if you're on Tristan and Craig's vehicle. But this morning I've got some coffee with me, which I've mixed some hot chocolate in here. So I've got like a cafe mocha drink going on. So I'm sure classy, hey? Look at that. So that should be quite nice. Would you like to try some, Fergs?
I love it, man. I've had about 4 liters of coffee.
Where's your? Well, yeah, right. Where's your cup? See, so we but you see, I'll share with you. Try that. See what that tastes like. There we go. Sorry, everyone. I hope you all having a cup of coffee or a tea or drink or whatever it is, wherever you are around the world.
Oh, this is outstanding.
It is good, hey? Yeah.
Cafe mocha with a view.
Cafe mocha with a view. And what I always say too, I just saw an interesting bird flying back there. Looked like a little green wood hoopoo. Just caught a glimpse of it flying off, unfortunately. But what I always say too is it's nice to stop and have a break like this and just sit and listen to the bush, and often actually listen. See if it calls again. Those are the green wood hoopoos that I can hear calling. They've just flown off. Trying to see if I can see them for you. They've got those beautiful long red beaks. Now, it's a strange name because they used to be known as the red-billed wood hoopoo, which makes complete sense. But then the name's changed to green wood hoopoo, and I'm just going to show you quickly what it looks like. There we go. Have a look at that. Beautiful colours on that bird. You see there? There we go. Beautiful colours. Sorry, there we go. You see that bright red beak and legs, and it's called the green wood hoopoo now because it does have a bit of iridescence in it when the light hits it. That's the coloration in the feathers, and you get the slight greenish blue colour, but a bit of green that you can see. So that's where the name green wood hoopoo comes from. And they're very social birds, always in groups, always in small family groups. They just flew off, unfortunately, but they are around. Hope I don't miss. Oh, there's some other little birds flying around. Now, is it on guard asked for the tip of the day. So now, yesterday was a safety tip. I think today's tip is when you are out on safari, don't forget to take time and look at the smaller things. Don't just chase the big five or the bigger animals. There's a lot to see out here, and often when you stop and watching birds or insects or something like that, other things will appear for you. And it actually just happened with me now on this recent trip. We stopped to look at a bird. It was a pale chanting goshawk, and we were watching the bird for a while, and the next thing we saw lions in the distance. And if we didn't stop for the bird, we probably wouldn't have seen the lions. Now, as I said, don't just chase the bigger animals, not just the lion, leopard, or elephant, or whatever it may be. It's always nice to see those animals, but there's a lot going on around you. So take time and notice the smaller things too. I think that's very important, and a lot of people often lose track of that sometimes when they are on safari, or they just want to chase the big sightings. Every sighting is wonderful, and that's what is so special about nature and the wildlife of Africa especially. So that's my tip of the day. I hope I remember it for this afternoon. If you watch this afternoon, please remind me again. And make sure the ladies in the final control make a note. This cafe mocha is quite tasty, actually.
Yeah.
Hey, not too bad. Luckily, I can multitask and drive and have a coffee at the same time. Some dung on the road. Yeah, it's not fresh. It does appear to be leopard dung, but not fresh. And I say not fresh because I cannot see any tracks of the leopard, and also it's dried out. Now, Rashni, you asked which season I find it difficult to track in, or track animals in. Now, Rashni, I must be honest, I think winter, and I'll tell you why I say that, is because in winter, the tracks tend to look or remain fresh, what we would assume to be fresh, for a lot longer. Because there's not a lot of rain or and especially, I suppose there's a bit of wind today, but sometimes there's very little wind. The days are cool, so the tracks they just appear a lot fresher for a lot longer. They look very clear. So I think it's probably quite difficult to see fresh tracks or gauge how fresh the tracks are in winter as opposed to summer. Because summer you'll have dew in the morning, you'll have a lot of moisture around, so it's easier to then gauge if the track is old or not. I don't know, some of the really experienced trackers, like my friend Judas, I don't think he ever found it difficult to track. He could always gauge how fresh the tracks were. He was amazing. We would drive and he'd see a track and he'd tap the bonnet, or we became so good at reading each other because we worked together for so long. He would just do a slight movement and I'd know he's seen something, and Judas would tap the bonnet or look at a track and just say, "No, this is fresh. This is literally 5 minutes ago," or 2 minutes. He'd sometimes say, he said 2 minutes. We'd drive around the corner and I promise you we would find what track he saw. It was incredible to witness. Now I'm going to continue on our search. Let's go and see how Tristan is doing. Apparently he's moved off from the dam, so let's see where he is headed now.
Well, we indeed, because the dam gremlins were out, and well, it was getting very windy there and was not actually very pleasant at all. It was kind of gusty and cold, and Craig and I were both frozen, so we decided we'll hightail it back onto Djuma and try and get ourselves into some of the thickets. And we're going towards sort of central, because central seems to be the place where elephants have been living the last few days. Craig was saying that he's had many sightings there recently with the other presenters, and so, well, we're going to try and trust Craig on his instincts and head towards central and see if there aren't some ellies lurking on central themselves. Well, itself, should I say. It's amazing though how this wind just came out of nowhere. It was beautiful. This morning it was kind of windy and not too bad, and then it just stopped and it became this sort of lovely temperature, and then the wind just kicked up, and now it's really gusting and it's got a very cold feel to it, and it's out of the southwest, so this will be one of those cold fronts that has been battering Cape Town over the last little bit, and so we're just now getting the tail end of that as it sort of moves through and moves off the southern side of South Africa, or the southeastern side of South Africa. But what was interesting is when we were sort of sitting at the dam, we had a visual of the crocodile, and the crocodile that we saw had a missing tip to its tail. So now that will be an easier way to identify which is which. We'll have to ask Brent when he named Vlad and Boris which one had the missing tip to the tail, but I feel like Vlad is the one with the missing tip to the tail and Boris had a whole tail, I think. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, you wondering if I'm going to grow a winter mane. I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I might grow a winter mane. There's also been challenged to do the beard in the sunlight because I asked Taylor to wave her hair, her golden locks in the golden light, and so now I've been challenged to do a beard in the light. Now my beard is not really long enough to do a sunlight backlit beard, and so what we'll have to do is grow it out a little bit. So maybe yes, a winter mane. Try and challenge the Birmingham males to a mane off. That's what we can call it, and we'll see who can grow the bigger mane. Maybe we should have a Safari Live male mane competition, so all the Safari Live men to grow their manes out and see who has the most impressive mane by the end of winter, by the time the first rains come. Maybe that will be quite fun. What do you think, Craig? Yeah, maybe. You don't know how well you'll do. It's not about how well you'll do, Greg. It's all just about showing some masculine side, and you never know. Maybe this prolonged period of not shaving will cause your mane to fluff and to be big and volume filled. We'll put some conditioner on it, and we'll get you some beard oil. How about that, Craig? Come on, it'll be fun. I wonder actually who would grow the biggest beard. I feel like there would be some big contenders. Maybe Byron actually would grow quite a thick beard. I think Byron has the potential for a big mane, although I don't know what he'd look like. It would be quite funny to see Byron with a beard and fully grown. I reckon James might be able to grow a big one, and James would start looking a bit like a lumberjack, I would imagine, with his sort of short hair on top, and if he grew one of those long beards, it would be quite funny actually to see. So maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do the male mane challenge, and you've got to leave your beard until the first rains, and we'll see who has the biggest and longest beard by then, although that might be a bit of a pain. I must be honest, when it gets long it becomes a pain at the end of the day. But we'll see. We'll have to throw up for a vote and see what the vote is. So Chantal just said to me that Jandre is not allowed to be part of this because she doesn't want to see Jandre with a caveman mane. But come on, Chantal, it'll be fun. He already has a mane on top of his head. It'll be fun if he has a mane on his face as well. Surely, Chantal, come on. Chantal says no, that his one mane on top of his head is more than enough. She can't deal with another one on his chin too. So sorry, Jandre, you're being excluded now from this competition, apparently. I'm pretty sure Ali would also have something to say if mine got too long as well. But oh well, you've got to just sometimes do these things and ask for forgiveness later. Of course, we have now divulged completely into anything but wildlife, talking about manes and varying other things, so well, I suppose we should try and get back to wildlife, although there's not really much of that this morning either. It all seems to be quite quiet, although Chitra Dam was quite pleasant. Lots of different species there. I think this wind is going to play a lot of havoc when it comes to trying to find said elephants. Now, Craig, you said elephants. Now let's see. This dung doesn't look very fresh, so Jerry has chimed in all the way from the Mara, saying that Eggsy, who has quite a well-developed mane already, would probably win hands down, and is winning hands down already. And I think, Jerry, what you need to do is post a photo of Eggsy's beard on #SafariLive so we can all see how big Eggsy's mane is currently. I think that's a fine idea. So Eggsy's mane, #SafariLive, #Eggsy's mane, and let's have a look at what Eggsy looks like up in Kenya, and whether or not he's been looking after himself up there. Now we're coming across our infamous pipes that one of our, well, not one, but many elephant has had a go at. Now I see that one is actually out of the ground, so I'm going to pick up this one because I don't really want to see pipes lying around. The other one is still underground and still attached, so that one's going to stay, unfortunately for now. We'll maybe come and cut it at some point, but this one that is no longer attached is going to come with us. Now, it's always important when picking up a pipe is just to make sure that there is nothing living inside said, because the last thing you want is a massive black mamba to come flying out and to come try and get after you. So we're going to try and wedge that in. Craig, if you can push it down on that side for me, and then it should wedge in behind the poles. There we go. We've made a new addition to Rusty. So that's that out of the way. We don't want that lying around, but like I say, when picking up pipes in the bush, you've got to be a little bit careful, because sometimes nasties that live inside there come out as well, and like I say, we don't really want a black mamba on the car with us, or for that matter any of the scorpions or spiders that might be associated with that pipe as well. So that's why it got a little shake before it got put on the car. Now this pipe in front here is still attached underground, so there's no real way for me to be able to pull that up, but what we will do is try and ask the guys if we can't just come and cut it. I unfortunately don't have my Leatherman with me now, so that would be a bit of a difficult way to do it, and undoubtedly even if I do cut it, at some point some naughty elephant is going to come along and is going to try and pull it up again, and so we're going to end up with that situation going on and on and on and on and on until all bits of pipe are gone. Now you can see we've got some bounding impalas, which give them right of way. It's just the two of them? Yes, just the two of them. It's amazing how much more sort of shy the animals are on a day like today, when they've got this wind gusting at them. They tend to really not be that impressed by it, and you find that they sort of bound around and try and get out of the way and get away from you. And the reason for that is because they know sometimes we follow predators, and the car could be a sign of something around, and they then try and sort of bound away just to get away from that. Craig, I don't know about your elephants. So far, it's not looking good, but we are approaching the area that Craig said they all like to be in. So I'm just going to try and have a quick look down here. Let's just quickly sneak in here before we go and see if Byron's had any luck. And there's a little sort of drainage section here as we approach the Mulawati, with lots of places that elephants can dig. Oh, Craig, I don't know. No, Craig. I'm voting no elephants, unfortunately, for you this morning. Let's see. No. Sorry, Craig. No elephants. Well, we'll keep trying and see if we can't find some more. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see whether he's had any more luck than we have.
Unfortunately not, Tristan. The only thing I've got in my eyes at the moment is some dust because of this wind. But haven't found too much else just yet. However, I've spotted some Impala off to the side. I'm checking these drainage lines again just to see. Just two lonely Impala. Wonder where all the elephant are hiding this morning. I don't know. Yeah. We had a lot of luck with elephant the last few days. Oh, dust is quite bad. Still quite a chill in the air with this cool breeze. Never got let's see if there are any interesting birds. Now I think Tristan said he saw a painted snipe here the other day. Now that would be amazing to see. I haven't seen one of those for many years. So I'm going to try and have a look around here to see just some Egyptian geese there at the moment. I don't see the painted snipe anywhere. So a little marsh bird. It's a perfect little area for birds like that. I don't see anything just yet. Keep scanning and having a look. Some doves around here too, Cape turtle doves. But look at that beautiful Egyptian goose. Wonderful colours on them. That call of the Cape turtle dove in the distance. Work hard, work hard. I'm just going to move down and around, check this waterhole on the other side. Let's see if there's anything interesting lurking around here. I'm scanning, but I don't see anything just yet. Violet, you asked, do we have wild cows? Did I hear that correctly? Wild cows. Yeah, no, Violet, we don't. Not at all. The wild cows, if there were any cows in this area, they'd be eaten by everything. Cows are not very good at protecting themselves. Oh, there's a lovely little bird that just took a dive down into the scrub. Let's see.
Direct translation of wildebeest as well.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, Fergus. So the direct translation of the wildebeest, or the wildebeest, is wild beast or wild cow. Beest is a cow in Afrikaans. So wildebeest, wild beast, wild cow, perhaps. However, no, we don't have wild cows, Violet. Not at all. Obviously, not in this natural environment. They wouldn't survive out here. They'd be eaten by the lions. The closest thing we have out here to a cow would be the buffalo. Now, the buffalo, I suppose, is a wild cow. I suppose you could call it that, although they are very strong, very powerful animals. But in terms of digestive system and hoof and all of that, they're very, very similar, very similar. But no wild cows out here. No luck with the painted snipe over here, but we'll see what else we can find. Hoping to find something. Sit to you. I think, but we're under this big torchwood. Beautiful torchwood or a green thorn. Alright, but we're going to continue our search for some birds, I think. And let's go over to Tristan and find out what his plan is.
Well, if you're searching for birds, then, well, we've seen some, and we're going to try and show you them. They are quite far away, but it is a whole sort of flock of vultures that are busy circling in the distance, and I'm not 100% sure which vultures they are at this stage. They're all starting to come up and ascend now, and the reason why is because of the thermals that are starting to sort of come and rise from the sun as well as the wind that we've got. So there's a nice column of them. I don't know if you can find them there, Craigie. It's going to be quite tough. They're pretty much over the top of that tree. So there we go. There they all are. So it looks like mostly white-backed vultures if I look through my binoculars. Difficult to see though because of how far away they are. But there you can see. Look at them, how they just ride the thermals. Isn't that cool? And you can see a nice big grouping of them. And this doesn't necessarily mean that these vultures have come off a kill. Often people will see columns of vultures and immediately their first thing that they think of is kill, and it's not actually the case. A lot of what happens with vultures is that they take off and another vulture sees those vultures flying and it decides, well, I'm going to go and head into that area and just check what's going on. Also, that will be an area where thermals will be rising, and therefore it means that the vultures will kind of catch that area and they'll all come together in a column. And so if you want to know if something is dead rather than alive, watch how the vultures move. If they start climbing and they gain altitude as they go, they've all just disappeared. They've gotten too far away from us by the looks of things. I can't see them anymore myself. But if they are gaining altitude and going up this, then you know that they are trying to start sort of find thermals and to start scanning for food. If they start downward spiraling, then you know that there is something there that they have found and that they're coming down to land for. Right, now from one soaring bird to another, let's go across to Byron, who seems to have another bird of prey.
I do indeed, and it's a beautiful batelier. It's flying away from us at the moment. It's a female batelier. I could see she just flew over us. A lot of white underneath the wing with a little thin black stripe at the tip of the wing. But you can see that very unstable flight pattern of the batelier. Looks as if it's rocking from left to right. It's because they've got very short tails, so they don't have a very stable flight pattern. However, the short tail is to help them maneuver very easily and very quickly. So the batelier are scavengers, so they will go down and feed off carcasses and hopefully get there before the larger birds of prey get there, like the vultures. So the theory is that that short tail will allow them to move down and between the trees a lot quicker as that batelier disappears. So that is the theory behind the short tail. So it helps with maneuverability, but then their general flight pattern looks quite unstable with them flying up. Now, I mean, that goes against what I would think helps with maneuverability. If you think of a yellow-billed kite, they've got very long tails, very kite-like or triangle-shaped tails, and that helps them, and they're very agile and can maneuver very, very well. So I don't know, but that's again a theory that why the batelier has a short tail. But you can see how it does affect their general flight pattern. That rocking motion from side to side. Something like that. We're still trying to scan for some more birds. Let's see what else we can find. I haven't seen any zebra since zebra or wildebeest actually since I've got back. I wonder where they all are. Farai from New Jersey, you asked if the ground hornbills are migratory birds. They're not. They're not at all. They here year round. Now we did have a group of them that were not quite nesting, but they were roosting in those trees in the clearings above camp. And but they seem to have moved, or probably just went into another area looking for a better tree. But they are here throughout the year, so we may see some ground hornbills again soon. Mita, you are 8 years old. Mita, you've been sending us a lot of questions. Thank you. I enjoy hearing from you. Enjoy your questions. Now, I'm just going to jump off here quickly with your next question. As you asked if all the leaves or all the trees lose their leaves in winter now. Now, they actually don't. They don't, Mita, and I'll show you why. Now, this is one of the trees that don't lose their leaves in winter. This is called a magic guarri, tree. I'm sure it's been spoken about many times before, but just to show you, these leaves are very hardy, which means they're quite tough and they stay green throughout the winter. Can you believe that? They do stay green throughout the winter. These trees don't lose their leaves, but some of the other trees will lose their leaves. Now I'm trying to think of some of them. Well, and my best example would be the marula trees. Those beautiful big marula trees, they lose their leaves in winter. But there are a lot of tree species like this magic guarri, and also these silver cluster leaves. They'll also kind of hold their leaves throughout the winter. So you will see leaves on them too. So not all the trees lose their leaves. Sure, that's a bit of a tongue twister. Try to say that 5 times fast. Mita. Not all the leaves lose their tree. Not all the trees lose their leaves. See if you can get that 5 times fast. Maybe it's not that difficult. Now, I've just found tracks of a female leopard. Let me see if I can show them to you. Let's try to find a clear one. There we go. Might actually get this one here, folks. Hold on, I'm going to jump off again. There we go. Can you see this little track? Circle it over here. Can you see that? There we go. There's a track of a female leopard. It's a very small pad at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4 toes going in this direction. Now, I wonder, judging by the size of this track, I wonder if this isn't, I'm not sure, and I'd hate to guess incorrectly, but I wonder if this isn't young Shungile, that young female leopard that we have had moving around this area in the last few days. So that's why I think it's possibly her too. And she's walked down the road in this direction. So I wonder if she didn't cross our boundary, because our boundary is just behind me here. It's not too far. But it's nice to see these fresh tracks in this area. This looks like from probably early this morning, to be honest. It does look like it. So I wonder if she isn't still around in this area. Otherwise, we'll try again this afternoon and just come and drive around and see if she doesn't stick her head out. I don't see anything. I haven't heard any alarm calls. But it's good to find fresh tracks so we know more or less which area these leopards are moving through, and possibly try and find them later. Now, it's a public holiday today in South Africa, 16th of June. I think it's Youth Day, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Youth Day in South Africa. But anyway, those of you are traveling on the roads today, if you're going on holiday for the weekend in South Africa, travel safely. Always take care on the roads. Hope you have a wonderful long weekend. We will still be out on safari every day though. But anyway, let's head back to Tristan. Find out where he is. Has he had more tea? Has he found birds? Give us something, Tristan.
Sorry, Byron. All I can say to you is that on your long weekend you are working. That's all I can give you today, unfortunately, because I have no tea on board. You are the men with the flasks. You and Ferg, you've both got hot water and coffee there. And, well, in terms of anything else, well, we're failing miserably ourselves. We really are struggling to find anything else out here. It's cold and windy and, well, not very pleasant for animals, that's for sure. So, all a bit quiet this morning. At least we've got Byron to cheer us up and to liven up the day. There's always a live wire around the camp, and definitely will be keeping everyone entertained and thoroughly sort of happy about life. He's quite a good character in the camp. He's got a very good sense of humor, and that means that most of us are ending up laughing multiple times during the day. So it's nice to have Byron around, and I didn't even remember it was a long weekend this weekend. Forgot completely about the fact that we have such things, and, well, I hope everybody in South Africa does have a lovely long weekend. I'm sure it will be good. It seems like it might be a cold long weekend if we've got weather like this, and the rest of the country should be pretty chilly as well. And it's not much better when you've got cold weather than when you can spend it at home on a long weekend, so that's very good. It's been interesting though just to see how few birds we've seen. This kind of birds were around right at the start of drive. There was a few that I saw. Foot in mouth, Tristan, because there's two birds sitting right in front of you. So two lilac-breasted rollers that are silhouetted against the very harsh light that is coming from the east at the moment. But there you can see our lilac-breasted roller pair. Both of them struggling to balance in the wind. You'll find they'll do a rocking motion and their tails will go up and down, just trying to keep them actually on the branch. What is the one on the left doing? Ah, there we go. Difficult to see because they are against the light as to what it was actually doing. I think it was just scratching its chin. I just want to have a look through my binoculars. They are such beautiful birds, but unfortunately where we park now, we just can't see those incredible colors that they have. They've got this lilac chest, which is obviously where they get their name, or lilac breast, and then they've got these sort of turquoises on the wings and these electric blues. It's very, very pretty indeed. I wonder if they're going to take off if I try and maybe pull to the side a little bit so we can actually see a bit more of those colors. Craig, let me try and see. I think they might fly, but we'll try anyway. It's amazing how these guys sort of disappear in the summer months. Oh, unfortunately no, they're both gone. Sorry about that, guys. I was trying to get us so that we could actually see their colors, but they both decided to fly off like I thought they would. But it's amazing to see how in the summer months we hardly sort of, I mean, they're around and you do see them, but they're not as many as you would think. Now in the winter they all start to come out, and the reason why is that the European roller is here in the summer. The European roller is a little bit larger than the lilac-breasted roller, and so they get out-competed quite heavily on perches and areas where there's available food, and so that's why we don't see as many. Now, I also got a question on Twitter, and I apologize, I can't remember exactly who it was, that asked me why there are so fewer lilac-breasted rollers here at Djuma than there are in Kruger Park. It was somebody that had been in the Kruger Park and said that they'd seen lots of lilac-breasted rollers that side, and why were there so few this side. You can see how quickly our two Impalas have run, so they've come all the way from the other side where we saw them running across the road close to Philemon's cut line, and they're now all the way up here. on Zoe's. But the reason why we see probably fewer than what you're seeing in the Kruger Park is twofold. One is where we are here, there are a lot of rollers. It's just that because we see rollers so often, we often don't put them on the screen. So we show them every now and then, but not all the time. So that's one side of it. The second side of it is the habitat that we're in is generally not the best for rollers. Rollers are like more open sections, and so you'll find a lot of the rollers down near sort of Crocodile Bridge, Lower Sabi, and those big plain areas to the north of that, and then around Sutara and that section. The other side of it is that when you're in the Kruger Park, you're traveling much bigger distances than what you're doing here at Djuma. Here we'll cover a certain number of kilometers as we traverse these sand roads, and we intend to do it a lot slower and a lot more methodically because we track and we do all kinds of other things and we get distracted quite a bit. In Kruger, you're covering much bigger expanses of land, and therefore your number of individuals that you're coming across is far more than what we would come across on an average morning drive here. Also, you must take into account that a lot of the time you'll be driving the whole day, whereas we're only driving for 6 hours of the day as opposed to a 12-hour day, and therefore you're going to see a lot more of them there. So it's more just a sort of trick of the mind than anything else. It's not that we don't have a healthy population of rollers here. We most definitely do. It's just that we don't cover nearly as much distance as what you do to be able to see the same number of rollers inside the Kruger. If only leopards were as easy as the rollers to find. Kirk, you want to know why we can't habituate birds? Well, you can habituate birds. You just have to spend time with the exact same individual every day like you would with a leopard, and you'd have to be able to get sort of close to them and know where they are. And I would imagine if you could find a nest of one of these birds and you parked a car there every single day running, eventually they would get very used to it, and you'd probably find that you could habituate them. And if you look at birds in a garden or birds in a park or birds in places like that where they get fed, you'll find those birds become easily habituated very quickly. In fact, pigeons become a problem where they'll be around your feet and all over the place. So birds can be habituated. It's just out here we don't use anything, we don't feed any of the animals, so we can't use that method. And it's because birds are so mobile and we often don't know where their nests are and various other sort of reasons that we just don't spend enough time with each individual bird in order to habituate them so that they are that relaxed. Our birds here are also not that unrelaxed. I mean, we get most of our birds we can get on camera. They are sort of shy, reclusive birds, and most of those spend their time in thicker areas, and that's the reason that they are shy and reclusive and harder to see, is that's the habitats that they like to sort of spend time and where they feel safest. So it does happen from time to time, but most of our birds we can, if we just turn off, are able to get some sort of view on them. But we're never going to get them landing on the car. Well, actually that's not true, because we have some hornbills in camp. There's a pair of red and yellow-billed hornbills that are incessantly landing on the cars and pecking at themselves in the reflection of the side mirrors. So if your car is parked anywhere near the sort of parking area of the camp, you will undoubtedly come back to a car full of dung and peck marks all over your side mirror. It really is not that pleasant, and that's not because they're habituated, that's just because the hornbills are quite vain and they like to look in the mirror. No, not really. It's just that they see a reflection and they think it's an intruder, and that's why they attack their own reflection with such vigor and such sort of intent. I want to see what these tracks are. Tracks for vervet monkeys walking around. Vervet monkeys have been very active. I've seen their tracks all over the place. They've been moving up and down. It seems like they've had a real good time, although we haven't really seen them on the drive itself. I've been looking around for them but haven't actually seen them too much. They just see their footprints all over the place. I know Taylor was commenting on it yesterday as well. Right, well, our search for varying items and varying wild critters has not been very fruitful this morning, and it sounds like after Byron's epic start to the morning, he's gone much the same as we have.
Yeah, we're trying, Tristan. We're trying to find stuff, but it's been a bit quiet now the last little while. Looking very, very hard for some animals, anything to pop up. And the thing is, now with winter also there's a lot fewer insects, so that also makes it a bit harder to find stuff. There are indeed worms in the soil in certain areas, especially close to the rivers and that, where the water's a lot softer, where the soil's a lot softer and easier for the worms to burrow through. But yes, there are indeed worms around here, and a lot of the bird species will feed on worms, especially birds like those hardy-daws. They like to feed on worms. So they are, but now with the lack of moisture, I don't think there'd be a lot of worms around. Probably buried underground somewhere. Oh, it's quite windy. Looks like even the birds have disappeared from us for now. Mary, Safari Live, I think we do work on Christmas. I think we work every day as far as I know. So no rest for the wicked, no rest for us. Hi everyone. But that's a safari business for you. We when I worked at the lodges permanently, when I worked at Londolozi, we work every day. Every day is the same for us. We just get cycles. So you work usually at 6 weeks on and 2 weeks off. That's how the work cycles work for most of the camp staff. So from but then it's every day. Every day. So whether it come rain or shine, we're out there and trying to find animals. If it's very unpleasant, we'll stay within the camp with the guests. But we definitely work every day. Every day. Christmas and that is a lot of fun, and New Year's. We used to have wonderful New Year's Eve parties with all our guests at the camps, and it was a lot of fun. The game drive the next morning is a little tricky. There's some tired guides that are driving the vehicles around. But the guests are tired too, so everybody's on the same wavelength. Usually what we would do is maybe just go out a bit later, do a drive for an hour or two on New Year's Day, then head back to camp for breakfast. Speaking of heading back to camp for breakfast, Fergus just gave me a knowing nod at the back, and Fergus, soon we'll be heading back for Amanda's breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, somebody who really loves the breakfast, who actually really loves every meal, Tristan. Let's go see what he thinks about that.
Says Byron. Byron is the first one at breakfast, lunch and dinner, and is the one that always asks Amanda why she made so little, because he's still hungry. So this is now rich coming from Byron, because he is the sort of dustbin. Between him and Connor, you probably have to sort of make food for an extra 10 people, because the two of them absolutely plow through it. So it's definitely Byron that is the one that wants to be home at camp before I do for breakfast, and tries to get him and Connor, like I say, are always the ones that go for second. So the two of them are big eaters in camp. Byron makes me laugh because poor Amanda always gets it in the neck from Byron that there needs to be more food because he's hungry and he's a growing boy, and well, poor Amanda just rolls her eyes and says, okay Byron, and carries on with her day. I don't think it actually influences Amanda's decisions at all. She's one of those ladies that just kind of rolls with the punches, and she realizes that she's going to deal with a whole bunch of rather large characters, because the Safari Live crew is a bunch of very big characters, and they are all quite entertaining, and everyone's quite different, and Amanda's got to try and keep all of us happy, and so she has to have this very cool temperament, and she's perfect for the job that she does, and she does it so well. So we are very lucky to have Amanda, and the fact that she caters to our every needs and looks after us so well is, well, suppose, a very special thing. It's not many people in the world that are like that, and she always does it with a smile on her face, and so we are very glad that we do have Amanda in camp, that's for sure. But alas, still no animals. We tried to show you the moon, but it was too windy. The camera was moving too much, so unfortunately the moon was out. It was all just a vibration as the wind was gusting. Now, I didn't catch the name. I think it was Kirk. Was that right, Chantal? Kirk? So Kirk, you want to know how many people Amanda has to cook for? Well, at the moment, not that many, because there's just the 9 of us that are on site at the moment. In fact, we're down to 8 because Taylor went on leave today, so it's just 8 of us on site at the moment. But when we have our TV shows, and poor Amanda has to then cook for sometimes 30 people, which is quite a big feed. 30 ravenous people 3 times a day, it becomes really quite something. And she does all our packed lunches and dinners. If we have night tests on cameras and things like that, she'll make packed lunches for us, and she does all of that as well. So she really is a trooper and works very, very hard to make sure that the Safari Live crew is all happy and well fed and looked after. So we are all indebted to Amanda, and she definitely keeps smiles on the faces of most of the staff members and makes sure that none of us are in a hanger mode, which, for those of you who don't know what hanger is, it's when you get angry while you're hungry. So she's definitely one that makes sure that that doesn't happen, and we know that both Craig and I suffer from that. Craig, don't we? Yeah, Craig just laughs behind me because the other day Craig forgot. Craig always brings a little sort of breakfast pack as we go along. He has his little oranges and sometimes a banana and a pear, and it depends on the time of the year, the fruit that Craig brings with him. But if Craig forgets his breakfast pack, then Craig gets a little grumpy towards the last half an hour of the drive. So we have to make sure that every morning Craig has got his breakfast pack on board, and off we go. He's much like Dave, actually. Dave is also the same. Dave needs his breakfast pack too, and Viam has a little lunchbox as well with his little granola bars in it. So our cameramen need to be well fed, so Amanda makes sure that they're all well fed and no hunger creeps in, and therefore a happy crew that all works together. Ooh, Miss Sky, you want to know what Amanda cooks for dinner or supper? Well, she cooks all kinds of delicious things. What did we have last night? I can't remember. Was it pork last night? Last night I think we had pork and mashed potatoes and coleslaw. Often we get, the night before I think we had rump steak. Oh, and we had Melva pudding last night. Now, those of you who don't know what Melva pudding is, it's a typical South African dessert. It's a sponge pudding that's laced with caramel, and we had ice cream and chocolate sauce. So Amanda spoilt us last night with dessert as well. And the night before we had rump steak that was cooked to perfection with vegetables. And what else was there? There was also potatoes, I think, yesterday. I'm not sure, but there was some of that. So we get all kinds of lovely dinners. Sometimes we get fish, sometimes we get Chantal's telling me that I'm making her hungry by talking about Amanda's delicious dinners that she makes. So sometimes she does curries, sometimes she does stews. She makes us all kinds of things, anything you can really imagine. And if sometimes crew are really sort of craving a certain thing, then we go to Amanda, and she always obliges and she makes what we ask her. So she does all kinds of things. I know the other day we did a nacho evening and she made nachos for us. We did a Mexican evening, so she's always helping out where we can. Right, now talking about food, Byron must be absolutely ravenous, and I'm sure I'm going to see a dust cloud coming flying past me at any second as he makes his way for breakfast. Let's go across to him and see where he is and whether or not he's caught the scent of breakfast yet.
I'm busy going to breakfast, Tristan. I can't talk right now. Well, it sounded like Chef Tristan was giving our full breakfast or our full menu there for a second. Oh dear. See what happens if we don't find stuff, then we start going off on a tangent. I do apologize. We'll definitely find some more animals this afternoon again. But I hope you enjoyed this morning with us. Wonderful morning. Great to see the Nkahuma Pride again. That is always a huge bonus, and I'm really happy I got to see them because I haven't seen them for quite some time. We did There's a grey hornbill calling. There's a grey hornbill just up in the tree above us. I could hear it calling. There it's sitting. That's a beautiful one. Look at that, the grey hornbill. Lovely little bird to finish off the show. So a big thank you to Tristan and Craig on the other vehicle, and then of course Chantel and Alice in the final control. And a big thank you to all the viewers for all your questions. I really hope you enjoyed the morning with us, and we do really enjoy and appreciate your comments and questions. And we're going to be heading back to camp. We're not too far now. We'll see you all again this afternoon for our sunset safari. We're going to try again for that Nkahuma Pride. Hopefully they stay in the area, and then possibly some more leopards if we're lucky. Have a wonderful day. Good night. Goodbye. We'll see you all soon.